This is chapter 29. Chitam sukhena bhavata paritam griheshu. Yanirvashadhyuta karavapi griya gritye. Paro padamna chalatas tava paramulad. Yama katam vrajamato karavama kimwa. Gopis, they're speaking. Until today our minds were absorbed in household affairs, but you easily stole both our minds and our hands away from our homework. Well, this is the gopis replying when Krishna met them in the beginning of the Rasa dance. He said, why have you come here? You come to see the beauty of the forest. Well, now you've seen it, now go home. Besides, there's dangerous creatures here. Oh, have you come to see the full moon? Oh, and then he said, you have sumadhyama, slender waist. You shouldn't be in a place like this. Your relatives must be wondering where you are and worried about you. It's not safe. You should go home. So then the gopis reply in the Pranaya Gita. And in that same chapter say, wait a minute, you're telling us to go home, but listen. Until today our minds were absorbed in household affairs. Till today when you went to Vamshivat and played your Murali and called us here. And now it's too late. Well, we could get into our domestic duties, into our families and taking care of them and our households and mother-in-laws, etc. And you called us, you summoned us here with your Murali, with the sweet sound of your Murali. And now we sing you under the full moon night of the Sharad season. It's too late. But you easily stole both our minds and our hands from our housework. Now our feet refuse to move one step from your lotus feet. So how can we go back to Braj? What would we do there? So they start revealing the intense attachment that they have for Krishna. Although he's pretending that, why you came? Swagatam, welcome gopis. It's strange to meet you here in the middle of the night. Well, they didn't reply and say, well, it's strange to meet you. I mean, what a coincidence. We were just wandering through here at 12 o'clock at night, and so are you, and we bumped into each other. You're from Nandagram, aren't you? Yes, I am. How do you know? Are you from Varsana? Yes. I think you look familiar. So he's playing and he starts preaching to them Dharma. Listen, the highest duties of a wife is to take care of her children and to look after her husband, even if he's old or invalid or sickly. And if you don't follow Dharma, you won't go to the heavenly planets. So behave yourself. Go home. So he's saying all these things externally, like, I don't really care. What are you doing here? And it's not a good place. And when they replied to him, they said, listen, okay, very nice. And they told it like it is. They spoke straight. Krishna was speaking like a standard Indian person. You say one thing, but you mean something else. But the gopis, they were telling straight from the heart. You stole our hearts, our feet refused to move. And as the verses go on, they say, listen, you're playing this flute all the time, and you called us here. So with those same lips, we want you to shower our lips. Our flute-like lips, we want you to play music on our flute-like lips with the nectar of your lips. Please fill our hearts with the nectar of your lips, our bodies have holes also. Your flute has 9 holes. And Vamshi is a feminine name, Murali is a feminine name. So my name is Vamshi Saki, my name is Murali Saki. And your bamboo vamps has 9 holes, I also have 9 holes. And you put your mouth to the flute and you play and beautiful music comes out. So put your mouth to my mouthpiece of my flute and make beautiful music come out of my flute. And the ecstasies of Shrinkar Ras and Ratikeli and the Kunjas. So they were straight, revealed their minds. This is what it means to relish topics about Krishna. Prabhuvara Maharange, Krishna Katha Mangala Prasange. Aneka Rahasyakari Advaita Sahita Ashesha Prakare Tana Janmaila Prita. Nityananda exchanged many confidential topics with Advaita, which may be what I just told you. They're talking about the Bhagavatam. What do devotees do when they get together? They don't talk about the sports or the Bombay movie news. They talk about the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Yamala Puranam. This is the most relishable subject for the devotees because it's all about Radha and Krishna's love. Confidential topics, rahasya topics. Tabe advaitera stane lai anumati Nityananda ailena navadvipa prati. Thereafter Nityananda took permission from Advaita and departed for Navadvip. So he's accomplishing so many his main purpose is to go meet Shachi. He expressed that desire when he was, after visiting Gadadhar Das, Pandit in India Yadaha, Gram. He said, "Oh, now boys, come on, let's get in the van. I think Mother Sachi's a good cook. Let's drive up to Mayapur and get some good food. And we'll do some Harinam over there in the streets of Navadvip, all the fish eaters, all the Bengali fish eaters. We'll do some Harinam, and all those Durga worshippers down there at the temple there, Proto-Maya temple, where they slaughter all the goats in central Navadvip there every Amavasya, chop all their heads off. Heads are rolling, literally. So let's go there and do Harinam. We'll get nice prasadam at Sachi's house." "Oh, that's a great idea." And they all jumped in the van, and Nityananda drove off to Mayapur. And on the way, someone said, "Oh, look, we can get some good food from Mother Shachi. Sita Devi, Advaita's wife. Hey, Nityananda, take this exit 108 on the Mayapur freeway. That goes to Shantipur, and it's about 20. It's only a small exit to the side. It's only 20. We're only 25 kilometers from Mayapur. So let's stop and surprise it. Way to try it." Nityananda said, "Oh, that's a great idea. I haven't seen it in a while." So they puts in an overdrive, and they go on to Shantipur, and all the Sankirtan devotees, they roll out of the van. "Jai Nitai, Jai Advaita, Jai Prabhu." And Sita says, Come, sit down." Sankirtan devotees. It's something like that. But they're not in a Sankirtan van, they're walking. And they're not going from Russia to China to Vietnam and all over the place. They're not flying and going by cars and vans. They're not going from New York to San Francisco or from northern Australia to southern Australia. They're just walking down the street, walking down the road and chanting and dancing. And naturally, whenever devotees go somewhere, they want to meet devotees. When you go somewhere, the first thing you want to do is meet the devotees. You go to Bombay, and as soon as you get to Bombay, you call up your devotee friends. "Oh, I'm here. What's happening? Let's have a program." You tell your wife, and you know that guy's wife is a good cook also. So you say, "Look, let's have a program at your house." maybe your wife can cook something. Maybe. By the way, yeah, I'll see. I'll try to find out. Come over at 8:00. We'll have kirtan class and prasad. So this is what they're doing. So now he's taken permission from Advaita, because Nityananda is junior by age, so they're both Brahmins, and Advaita is a big acharya, the acharya of all of Shantipur, and large number of devotees. So Nitai is taking his permission, as is the standard in Indian hospitality, that when one is a guest and he's leaving the house, he says, "Please, I beg your permission to leave," and whatever, and then the host will cry and walk out with the person. He'll escort his host. He'll carry the bag. The host will be carrying his bag, and then as they walk out the door, then they hit the roadway, and then the host will take the bag he'll carry the bag a little distance. "Oh, let me carry your bag." And the host will carry the bag of his guests another 100 meters down the road, and then he'll stop. The host will stop and say, "Well, wait a minute. Don't go. Come back. Let's go back and stay another day or two with me." And then the guest who's leaving to go to some other village or return to his own home, he'll look at his host and say, "All right." And he'll turn around and change his plan and change his whole itinerary and go back and stay another day or two. Prabhupada told us on one tape. So this was Vedic culture in the old days when families were visiting. They would escort, they would walk with a guest. Not the guru, just a guest. Your uncle comes, your relative comes. You walk with him down the road, and he's maybe carrying his bag or his servant. Then you say, "Oh, no, let me carry." And then at a certain point you stop and say, "Oh, let's go back." Then he says, "No, give me my bag." "No, I have your bag. Let's go back. Come on." And he feels so much love and so much attraction, and he's forced by that love to go back. "Okay, I'll go back." But nowadays it's like, "Bye. Okay, don't come back. Take my permission. You want my permission to leave? You take it and don't come back." Different mood. So now, finally, Nitai walks that 25 kilometers. It's a standard Braj Yatra, one day's walk. When you're on the Braj Mandal Parikrama, maybe Navadvip Parikrama, I forget. But oftentimes they walk 25 kilometers every day, which is not very long. It's maybe 6 hours walking or so, 6-7 hours. to the next halting place. So he walked for a few hours and suddenly, Se mate sarvadye aila aistan asi namaskari lena aira charan. Nitai first went to the house of Mother Shachi and offered obeisances at her feet. Ai, ai, ai! Nityananda Sarupera Deki Shachi ai Ki Ananda Pailena Taranta Nai. On seeing Nityananda Sarup, Mother Shachi's happiness was boundless. Anta Nai, Anta Nai, Anta Noi, Anta Noi. No end to her bliss seeing Nitai, because seeing Nitai means seeing Gaur. Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur. Because seeing Nitai means he's coming from Puri and her son Shachinandan is in Puri. So seeing Nitai means seeing her son, because you see by hearing. She will hear so many wonderful stories and anecdotes and glories of her illustrious son, Gauranga, from the lotus mouth of Nityananda. So she was happy to see the bearer of good news and happy to see Nityananda, because she loves Nityananda like her own son. Ai bale bhaptumi satyantayami tomare dekite icha karilanami. Mother Shachi said, and remember, Nitai is maybe 40 years old in this juncture, and Sachimata is about 65, 70. My dear son, you are certainly the Antaryami, for I was just thinking that I wanted to see you. I was just thinking and desiring to see you. Icha. Tomare dekite icha karilana ami. It was my icha. Oh, sometimes we say someone comes, I was just thinking of you. I was just thinking, I want to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. And then you came. So, same thing is happening with Mother Shachi. Mora chitta jani tumi aila satwar ke tama chinitte pare samsara bhitar. You understood my desire, and you immediately came here. So you must be the super soul. Because who knew my desire except the super soul? I didn't tell anyone. I didn't express externally my desire. My itcha was internal. Antar itcha. Internal desire. Others may not know our desires, but Krishna knows our desires. He knows our heart. Mother Shachi is expressing that I didn't tell anyone. I did not express outwardly my desire and my wish to meet with Nityananda. Well, just now suddenly he's come, so only a super soul knows my desire. That means the super soul knows my desire because it's internally and silently spoken. It's a wish. It's a desire in my mind and heart. And God knows all of our desires and wishes and aspirations, because He's living there in our heart. And He's in the heart of everyone and everything and every atom. So He can make any kind of divine, fantastic, miraculous arrangement to bring about the fruition of our desire or the fulfillment of our aspiration. This is the power of God, unlimited. So therefore she saw Nityananda not merely as in a mood of her son or the close friend of, because it's considered that when Vishwarup left, then Nityananda kind of became a Vaishya of Vishwarup. Became kind of like the brother of Gauranga, being older also, elder in age. So she's seeing Nityananda as the super soul. Oh, you must be the super soul, because only he knew my desire and now you've come. So similarly, we will have the same experience. We have desires and we want to see someone or meet someone, then the super soul will make an arrangement. He'll inspire the other person. Oh, I haven't seen someone, the person from inside the heart of the other person. Super soul will give the inspiration. Well, why don't you go see so-and-so? And you'll think, I haven't seen so. All of a sudden you start thinking, I haven't seen this Swami in a long time. I think I should go see him. And then you come. Then and the Swami thinks, I was thinking of you. So the super soul is bringing the two together. And Shachi's recognizing that, so she's saying, you are the super soul. Of course, spiritually speaking, it's also true. It's not only an expression of her mood and understanding of the arrangement, but also Nityananda is a super soul because he's Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. Sankarshan Balaram becomes Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and super soul, Antaryami. So, who in the world can understand except you? Katha dina taka bhap navadripa vas jina toma dekon muni dashe pakshamas. My dear son, stay in Navadvip for some days so that I can see you every 10, 15 or 30 days. She wanted him to stay for some months. She didn't expect the Avadut Nitai would actually come there with a party of 6 members to engage in Harinam Sankirtan and Prachar, preaching. She did not expect him to stay at her house, but she wanted him to stay in Navadvip. She didn't say Mayapur or with me. She says, please stay in Navadvip for a few months. And then I can see you every 10 days or 15 days or every 30 days. Which means every month or so I'll see you, which means that you'll be here for a few months. So it's a nice way of saying, don't go. It's a very, very poetic and beautiful way of saying, don't go. Toma dekon muni, dasha paksha mase. Dasha, dash means 10 days. Paksha means Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha. 15 days, Krishna Paksha means the section or the group. Half the month. One section of the month is dark moon, Krishna Paksha. One section of the month, or one section 15 days is Krishna Paksha, dark moon. And the other section of the month, also for 15 days, is Shukla Paksha, which means white, or the full moon time, and the moon is waxing to full moon on Purnima. So she's saying, stay for a Paksha 15 days, or stay for a Mas, Ek Mas, Do Mas, so I can see you once a month, or every 15 days, or every 10 days. So this, she's showing it. By saying this, she's saying, I really want to see you. Muni do now, but why? Someone might say, well, why does she want to see Nittai? He came to preach, and he can't stay there with Shachi day and night. He has 6 men with him, Brahmins and preachers with him. They have work to do. They have seva to do, prachar. So why is she so determined and interested to keep Nityananda nearby so she can have his darshan? Vrindavan Thakur answers that question. Muni dukinira icha tomare dekhite deve tumi asijachat dukita tarite. O son, I am so distressed and desire to see you. Now by the arrangement of providence, Daiva, you have come here to remove my distress, dukkha tarite. You have come here to free me from my unhappiness. So what is that unhappiness? The unhappiness is that her husband is gone, left the world. Her eldest son has gone and left the world. And her second son is gone and left Mayapur to stay in Puri, far away from Bengal. So she's Dukhi Lena. She's very unhappy in the absence of her husband and 2 wonderful sons. Shuniya Aira Vakya Hase Nityananda Jai Jani Aira Prabhavera Adi Anta. On hearing Shachi's words, Nityananda smiled, for he knew the beginning and end of Mother Shachi's glories. Nityananda Vale Shuna Ai Sarva Mata Tomare Dekite Muni Asi Jachon Hita. Nityananda said, Shuno Ai Sarvamata. Listen, Mother Shachi, you're my mother. You're the mother of everyone. I have come here specifically to see you, my mother. Mora bhara ichatoma dekite hetai, which is true because we heard when he was in this village of Gadadhar Das, he expressed, I want to see Mother Shashi. And all of a sudden they're supposed to go out, preach the conditioned souls, and he left one devotee's house, now he immediately wants to go to Mother Shashi's house, and stopped at Waitas. I had a great desire to see you here. Therefore, on your order, I will stay in Navadvip. Tomara Agya. Hena mate nityananda ai sambashya Navadvipe brahmena ananda jukta haya. After speaking this way, Nityananda happily wandered throughout Navadvip. Nityananda Sambash. Navadvip Brahmana. So tomorrow we'll hear about Nitai's Navadvip Brahmana Lila, the wandering of Nityananda in Navadvip. This is Chaitanya Bhagavat, Anti-Lila, chapter 5, verse 493. We're hearing about the Advaita Prabhu, Nityananda Prabhu Milan, Lila, in Shantipur, Dham, West Bengal, 525 years ago. Advaitara Vakya Bhuji Bhara Shaktikar Janiha Ishvara Sane Bheda Nahi Janra. Who has the power to understand the words spoken by Advaitacharya in his glorification of Nityananda? Indeed, Advaitacharya himself is non-different from the Lord. Hena mate dui prabhu vara maharanghe viharena Krishna Katha mangala prasange. Mangala prasange Prabhuvara Maharange. In this way, the two Prabhus, Advaita Prabhu and Nitai Prabhu, joyfully relish the auspicious topics of Lord Krishna. Viharena Krishna Katha Mangala Prasange. The Bhagavad Gita contains the Tattva Siddhanta of Bhakti, especially in the 7 chapters in the middle, the 6 chapters in the middle, chapters 7 to 12, is all about bhakti. And in those chapters, there's the Chatushloka verses of the Bhagavad Gita, the 10 key verses, which some acharyas say are all about the Braja Gopis, their activities and their absorption and their seeing Krishna and everything comes from Krishna, including Mahabhav and Shringhar Ras, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. Not only the Aishvarya and majesty and opulence of the creation and universe with all its vibhutis and powers and Virata Rupam, and these fantastic avatars and Purusha avatars, but even the essence of everything comes from Krishna. The essence of everything is not merely creative power and creative expression, but the essence of everything is love. And the essence of Krishna's love is Radha. And the essence of Radharani's love is Mahabhav. And the essence of Mahabhav is Unmad, Unmadani Radha. So this is told in the chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita, verse 8. Everything comes from me. Aham Sarvasya Prabhu. Up to the extent of Radharani and her Mahabhav, which is her sole contribution to Krishna's essential experience of love, which is the Braja Prem of the Gopis. And then it goes on, and then it says, Matchita Matkata Pranas Bodhayantas Parantapa. Katayanta, how does it go? Katayanta Shamam Nityam Tushanti Cha Ramanti Cha. In this verse it says that the devotees, the Matchita Matkata Prana Bodhayantas Parasparam, the devotees, they derive great relish and bliss by talking about Krishna. And no one does that more than the gopis. They develop so much relish, they become so much Katha Vesh, Lila Vesh, that they enter the Katha so deeply when they speak about Krishna that they actually see him. And they're so deeply entering into the Ramanti experience, Tushanti cha Ramanti cha, Tushanti, that's heart-mind satisfaction that only they can know because of their intimate connection with Krishna. They also experience Ramanti. Ramanti means conjugal bliss. So when they're talking about Krishna amongst themselves, this gopis prasanga, it says, Mangala prasange, that when Nitai and Advaita came together, that was considered Mangala prasange. They're very tightly connected in the most auspicious form of union, which is centered around the glorification of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. And this is their Vihar Krishna Katha. This was their own Vihar, Maharange Vihar. Nitai and Advaita were relishing these topics, so no one relishes the topics of Krishna Katha more than the gopis, and they experience, for them, the Mangala Prasange, the topmost expression of auspicious association is Ramanti. And that's the intimate divine union of Krishna and Radharani and Madhurya Ras. That is the Mangala Prasange, most auspicious Prasanga. And when the gopis are talking about Krishna and Krishna Katha, they are really Matchitta Matkata Pranas. Their chitta is fixed in Krishna. Matchitta means Mam Chitta. Their consciousness is fixed in me, the gopis. This verse describes the gopis, chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita, verse 9. Matchitta Matkata Pranas. And their prana is mixed in my prana. Their hearts are mixed in my heart, and that means pranaya. Sneha, man, pranaya, rag, anurag, bhav, mahabhav. These are 7 steps of prema. So much they're mixed and hearts are melted with Krishna. When they're engaged in Harikatha, in separation from Krishna, their hearts are so much melted and so much unified in oneness, one pran, ek pran, with Krishna, they experience Ranga. They experience the conjugal delight of union with Krishna, even in the Katha, amongst themselves. So in the same way, or a similar way, Advaita Prabhu and Nityananda were joyfully relishing the auspicious topics of Lord Krishna. And this is going on, devotees. So we see the Gita, although on one level, I was giving an example of the Lila of Gita, but Gita establishes a principle that when devotees, it's a statement, it's an axiom, when devotees get together and talk about me and absorb their consciousness in me, Katha, and talking about me, then what happens? They feel satisfaction and complete inner bliss and joy. Mental satisfaction, heart's elation, heart's joy, and full bliss in the heart. Peaceful, fulfilled minds and satisfied and saturated, hearts saturated with happiness by engaging in Harikatha. Now that's the precept. Now what's the example? So the example is the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in Venu Gita, when the gopis are speaking about Krishna, or Brahmar Gita, or in this Pranaya Gita, when the gopis are separated from Krishna in the Rasa dance, that was in chapter 29, and the gopis are separated and are searching for him. There is Pranaya Gita, I believe chapter 29, and they're asking, have you seen the Krishna? And then they became Krishna. They became so much absorbed in Krishna. One gopi became Krishna, and the other took them, under Yogamaya's influence, took the bhava, Putana. I'll kill you. Hey, out from here, Kaliya. One became Kaliya. So they became so much merged, mat chitta, mat kata pranas, that their prana and chitta completely became Krishna's chitta pran. So that's why it's called Pranaya Gita. There's this section up where the gopis are speaking. This is their pranaya, which reveals their pranaya prema. Their intense Sringar Prema and Pranaya. And that's in the 10th canto. There's so many Gitas, so that's chapter 29. And then we can just exactly, it's chapter 29 and 29 is Pranaya Gita, chapter 31 is Gopi Gita, and 35 is Yugal Gita. And then we have 47 is Brahmar Gita, and chapter 39 is Viraha Gita. So this Pranaya Gita is there in chapter 29, which is the beginning of the Rasa dance. Krishna meets with them, and then he starts to walk with them, and then suddenly Radharani disappears, and he leaves finds Radharani, then he favors her and offers to carry her wherever she wants to go. Then he disappears and they go mad searching for him. So this is the Pranaya Gita. This is a story of Maharaj Bharata and the black deer. While still in the prime of youth, it said he was 24 years old, Bharat Maharaj gave up his beautiful wife, palace, kingdom, and all royal opulence. He retired alone to the Haridwar and spent his time at Pulaha Ashram. He used to collect various flowers and twigs and tulsi leaves and water from Gandaki and offer these things to Krishna. He was very satisfied. He had no desires for material pleasure. By his continual bhakti, he developed love for Krishna and experienced some symptoms of bhava. His hair would stand on end and tears would flow from his eyes. He was always meditating on the beautiful reddish lotus feet of Lord Krishna. He forgot, it says, when his mind dove into the lake of ecstatic love, he forgot about the rules and regulations of Vaidhi, because he's living on a platform of bhav. Maharaj Bharat looked very beautiful, dressed in deer skin. One day, while he was chanting, a pregnant black doe was running in fear of a lion's roar. When that doe leaped across the river, it dropped a baby in the water because she was pregnant. It was a miscarriage. Maharaj Bharat felt compassion for that struggling deer, baby deer. He brought it back to his ashram and he used to take care of it. He was feeding it grass and protecting the deer and became very affectionate towards it. He was always trying to arrange for the comfort, and he would sometimes even kiss the deer out of love. He was so absorbed in caring for his deer that he gradually forgot Krishna and gave up all his practices of spiritual life. He was thinking, oh, this poor deer has no relatives. It knows no one but me. I am the father, mother, brother, and relative of this deer. The deer has full faith in me. I must take care of it and raise it properly. So he was so attached to the deer that Maharaj Bharat, he would sleep with the deer, he bathed it, walked with it, even ate his food with the deer. He is completely bound with intense love to this deer. He always took the deer with him into the forest to protect him. He was attracted to the childish behavior of the deer. Sometimes he carried on his shoulders, keep it on his lap while he was sleeping upon his chest. He felt great pleasure from fondling the little animal. It sounds like people and their dogs in America. He was always careful. If he was doing some activities, he would get up and search for the deer to make sure he was safe and sound. And at night he would bestow blessings on the deer. May you be happy in all respects. One day at sunset he couldn't find the deer and he became mad searching for it. He started remembering the playful antics of the deer and said, "Oh, when will that deer come back to pacify my burning heart? When I was pretending to meditate, the deer would fearfully touch me with the points of his soft horns." He got up from his reverie and searched for the deer, and he saw the footprints of the deer and started glorifying them. And he saw the dark spots on the moon. It reminded him of his black deer baby friend. Somehow, due to his past sins, he gave up the worship of Krishna. His prarabdha karma came to him. Or let's say, in closer inspection, we could say that due to his intense attachment to that deer, he started to neglect his spiritual life. He was wandering about, searching for the deer. In the middle of the night, he fell off a cliff and he was dying, lying upon the ground. And suddenly the deer came sitting next to him, lamenting like a son watching his father about to die. Bharat Maharaj became absorbed in thinking of the deer. And next life he became a deer, the black deer who was formerly known as Bharat Maharaj, the Emperor of the Earth. It's a very special deer that somehow or other he didn't forget his previous life. He could remember all the past activities, and sometimes he would repent within his mind. That little black deer would think in his mind, "Oh, I fell down from bhakti in my last life, gave up my palace and family and everything, and practiced Krishna consciousness, but due to my foolishness I got attached to this deer and I became one." So repenting in that way, that deer eventually became detached, or let's say that Atma became detached from the deer's body. He returned to the ashram, Pulaha ashram at Haridwar. And that deer, let's say Maharaj Bharat, or the Atma of Maharaj Bharat in that deer, he was carefully avoided any bad association. Finally gave up his deer's body, and in that body of a deer he was praying as follows, as Gajendra in the 8th canto of Bhagavatam also remembered some prayers that he had previously recited when he was inhabiting the human body of a king in his previous life. Somehow he remembered. So somehow Maharaj Bharat, now stuck in the body of a deer, could remember a beautiful prayer, and he spoke that at his last moment before dying in his deer body. The Supreme Personality of Sri Krishna is the controller of the entire creation, and Sri Krishna is the Supreme Soul residing in every living entity. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna is a personification of sacrifice and mystic yoga. And Krishna is so beautiful, Sham Sundar. Now, by destiny, I am leaving this body of a deer, offering obeisances to my Lord Sri Krishna, and hoping that I may perpetually engage in Sri Krishna's eternal loving service. Janpadiya Thakura Padila Ganga Mahaje Nityananda Haridasa Janpadila Pache. Mahaprabhu jumped in the Ganga, and Nityananda and Haridas jumped in behind him. Ate Vyate Nityananda Darilena Keshe Charana Chapiya Dare Prabhu Haridase. Beautiful scene. If we're seeing this, we could often tell about absorbing ourselves in scriptures and just try to visualize the scene. They're in Shiva Sangam, which is across the street, across the field. The Ganga was flowing there at Mahaprabhu Ghat and Jagai Madai Ghat. It's only 100 meters, 200 meters dash, 300 meters dash to the Ganga. In those days, maybe less. Well, very fast, very quickly, Lord Gauranga ran, his hair flying, his long hair, his shoulder-length long black hair flying, his yellow chadar and dhoti. He's running. Oh, so much distressed look on his face, diving in the Ganga. And then this old Haridas, this old person, somewhat old, quite a bit older, Nityananda, 10, 12 years older or so, 20 years older maybe, running behind him with their blue dhoti, and Haridas wearing white, like lungi, and skinny old guy. And they're running, short, skinny, I guess, I don't know, hard to say. I don't know how skinny he was. Probably had nice features. But they're running and they jump in. And what happened? Nityananda caught Mahaprabhu by his hair. Kesh Dari, like Haladar, Murlidhar, Kesh Dari, grabbed him by the hair. And Haridas grabbed the Lord's lotus feet. Grabbed him by the hair. That means there's some hair, some long hair there, not just the Sika. Dui Jane Dariya, Tui Lane Tire, Prabhubali Tomarava, Darile Kiseri. Nitya and Haridas carried Mahaprabhu out of the water, whereupon the Lord said, "Why did you restrain me? Why did you hold me?" Ki kariye rakiba prema, rahita jivan, kisere vatomara, darile duijan. For what purpose should I maintain this life, which is devoid of love of God? Why did you two hold me back when I wanted to drown in the Janavi? Na prema gandho stitarapi me haro Krandhami Sobhagya Baram Prakashitam Vamshi Vilasyanana Lokanam Vina Vibharme Yat Prana Patanga Kanbrita. This is Madhya Lila Mahaprabhu speaking. My dear friends, the prema gandha, I do not have the slightest scent of love of God. Prema gandha, na prema gandha. Darapi me haro. I do not have the slightest tinge of love of God within my heart. Not even the slightest fragrance. When you see me crying in separation, I am just falsely making a show. I'm exhibiting my great fortune. Krandhami Sobhagya Bharam Prakashitam. Krandhami, I'm crying, Kranda, but it's Sobhagya. I'm just trying to show my Sobhagya, my good fortune. How laden with good fortune I am. Sobhagya Bharam Prakashitam. But it is all a show. It is all false. Indeed, not seeing the beautiful face of Krishna playing his flute. Vamshi vilas anana lokanam bina. So lokana means seeing. Without seeing, anana means face. Vamshi vilas, without seeing that face of Shamsundar who's engaged in pastimes of love, Vamshi vilas, in his love-filled pastimes of playing his Vamshi, I continue to live. I'm not seeing his face. I'm only making a show of crying. I don't have a scent of, even the slightest fragrance or scent of love of God. I'm only making a show. I'm not even seeing the beautiful face of Krishna playing his flute. Vamshi vilas yanana lokanam bina. Yet, I continue to live. Therefore, my life has no purpose. My life is just like an insect. Bibharme yat prana patanga kan brita. Patanga means butterfly. Patanga. So they call kites are called patanga also. Means butterfly. So this was the reply of Mahaprabhu after he was rescued from drowning in the Ganga by Nityananda Avadut and Haridas. Haridas grabbed the Lord's lotus feet, and Nityananda grabbed him by the hair, held him by wrapped up his hair, his top knot, and they dragged him out. Dui jane mahakampa, aji kiba fale, Nityananda dega chahi, Gaurachandra bhale. Haridas Nitai trembled as they thought, what will happen today? Looking at Nityananda, Gaurachandra spoke. Tumi kini darila, amara kesha bhare, Nityananda bale, kine jaha mari bhare. Mahaprabhu said, why did you grab my hair? Nityananda replied, why did you try to kill yourself? Prabhu bale jani tumi parama bival, Nityananda bale, Prabhu shamahak sakal. Mahaprabhu said, I know you are most restless. Nityananda said, O Lord, Prabhu, please forgive me. Jare shasti karibare parasarva mate taralagi chalad nija sharire chadite. Nityananda continued, do you want to give up your body because of someone that you can easily punish? Abhimane sevakera balilavachan prabhu tahi lahibeki brichera jivan. If servants speak something out of pride, does their master take their lives? He's referring to Advaitas. Prema Maya Nityananda Wahi Prema Jal Jara Prana Dhana Bandhu Chaitanya Sakal. Filled with devotion, Nityananda shed tears of love for Lord Chaitanya, who was everything for him, his life, his wealth, and his friend. Jara Pran, Jara Dan, Jara Bandhu. So his very life force is Lord Chaitanya, his very wealth of his life, the meaning of his life is Lord Chaitanya, and his only friend and most dear friend is Lord Chaitanya. Prabhu Bale Shuna Nityananda Haridas Karostane Karapache Amara Prakash. Mahaprabhu said, listen, Nityananda and Haridas, do not tell anyone that you have seen me. I think he wants everyone to think that he drowned. Amanade Kila Bali Babachan Amara Agaya E Kahiba Katan. Mahaprabhu goes on. Tell everyone that you did not see me. You follow this order of mine. Muniaji Sangope Takibe Eitani Kare Pache Kahajari Mora Doshanai. Today I will hide here. If you tell anyone, then do not blame me for the consequences. Hey Bali Prabhu Nan Tannera Ghare Jai Hey Dui Sangop Koila Prabhura Agyai. After speaking in this way, the Lord went to the house of Nandanacharya. Following the Lord's order, Haridas Nitai kept a secret. Bhakta Sabha Napaya Prabhura Udesh Dukkamaya Haila Sabe Sri Krishna Avesh. Absorbed in love for Krishna, Sabe Sri Krishna Vesh, all became full of distress when they were unable to receive any news about the Lord. So they were absorbed in love of God. That's their sthayi bhav, their permanent devotional position. But when they didn't get any news, Prabhu Udesh, they became dukkamaya, full of dukh, unhappiness. What a beautiful scenery it is. If you're watching a movie, this three are there, and the Lord runs out, and then they Nitai and Haridas come back, and they say, "Well, what happened? Where's the Lord?" I don't know. Didn't see him. Disappeared somewhere. I think, oh, really? Yeah, really. This is terrible. Parama virahe sabe karena krandan keha kichu nabalaye pode sarvaman. All the devotees began to cry due to feelings of intense separation. Parama virahe sabe karena krandan. No one said anything as their hearts burned. Pode sarvaman. Their hearts and minds were burning. They couldn't speak, they couldn't say anything, all crying. Sabara uparajena haila brajapat maha aparada haila shanti puranat. Everyone felt like they had been struck by a lightning bolt, vajrapat, and Advaita, the Lord of Shantipur Nath, thought himself a great offender. Because this was the whole exchange between Advaita and Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu was complaining, I'm not feeling any love. And then Advaita said, no, we all have the love. You have the love also. What are you saying? And then not understanding, or Advaita's feeling now, I've caused the Lord to disappear from everyone. So now he's feeling himself a great offender, Mahaparad. Aparada haiya Prabhu Prabhura virahe upavasa karigiya takilena grihe. Feeling that he had committed an offense, Advaita Prabhu went home and fasted due to intense separation from the Lord. It's amazing how Vrindavan Thakur, in so many different instances, he talks about offenses. Of course, on this level, this is all Lila. There's no question of offenses. How can one who loves you completely and you love them completely, there's no question of any actual aparada or offenses possible in the true sense. But he talks about it where there's actual offenders, devotees. Sometimes these Pashandis, they offend devotees. Gopal Chapala and Haridas was offended, and some people get leprosy and their noses fall off. And Devananda Pandit made an offense to Srivas and threw him out of the assembly in the Bhagavatam Saptaha. So there are actually genuine Vaishnava aparats committed, and there's so much warning and care being taken to describe them and to alert us to the severity of making Vaishnava aparad. But then there's even offenses being discussed among the Lord and His eternal associates. This is, of course, much more difficult to understand. But their responses are something we can learn from, that that if one makes an offense, he feels bad. And if he doesn't feel bad, that means he's not a devotee. Because this is all about devotees. When devotees make offense, they feel bad. The genuine devotees. So with Advaita, of course, is Bhakta Panchatatvakam Krishnam Bhakti Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Mami Bhakti Shaktikam. It says Bhaktavatar and Advaita, they're all bhaktas, they're all the greatest devotees of the Lord. So they feel that, I must have made some aparad to the Lord. And then how do they respond to that? Okay, I offended this guy, so what? I mean, life goes on. Where's the Mahaprasad? No, they don't eat. They can't eat. They don't think, okay, you really offended that devotee the other day. That's what you say. He's just sensitive. He's hypersensitive. I didn't offend him. Come on, let's take prasad. Don't worry about that. So we may have these kind of responses in our modern day times due to our own lack of devotion and devotional perception. But he felt that he committed an offense. And how did he respond to that feeling? Did he overlook it and shrug it off and pass it off? No, he went home and fasted. He started fasting due to intense separation from the Lord. Sabbe cha lila gare, shoka kuli haya, Gauranga charana dana, hridaye bhandiya. Filled with lamentation, shok. Everyone returned to their homes with the treasure of Gauranga's lotus feet bound in their hearts. That's certainly a desirable treasure for all of us to have bound in our hearts. Gauranga charana dhan, that's a treasure of Gauranga's lotus feet. Gauranga charana dhan, and where do we want that treasure? Hridaye bandiya, band, sambandha, tied up, locked up, secured in our hearts. Hridaye bandiya. That treasure we pray for, we hope for. Gauranga charana dhan. Thakura Aila Nandan Acharyara Ghare Vasila Asya Vishnu Kattara Upari. Mahaprabhu arrived at Nandanacharya's house, which incidentally is about 1 kilometer down the street from Srivas Pandit's house. So he's not that far away from everyone. He's gone not even maybe 1 kilometer on the same street. You can visit that house, Nandanacharya's house. It's after you go past ISKCON and keep going a little further. Next major temple on your left is Nandanacharya's Bhavan, or the temple commemorating that. That's where Nityananda was hiding, remember? Nityananda came, he was on pilgrimage of India and was in Vrindavan, Nityanandavat, Sringarvat. Then when he understood that Lord Chaitanya was now initiated by Ishvara Puri at the age of about 19 or 20 years old, Lord Chaitanya returned to Navadvip, and he was a new man, changed person. And he had closed his Sanskrit school and become interested in Sankirtan. And then Nityananda returned to join him. The time was right. Lord Mahaprabhu was about 19 and Nityananda was about 30 or so, 35. So Nityananda came and hid himself in Nandanacharya's house, and he wanted to see if the Lord could find him. There was that famous pastime where Lord Chaitanya said, "Oh, some great personality has come to Mayapur. Everyone go search for him." So everyone went house to house. This is an earlier pastime. They were searching for this great personality. And then he came back and said, "Mahaprabhu, we went to every house, we searched everywhere, we can't find this great personality you're speaking of." He said, "All right, come with me." And Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, started a big kirtan party, and they went down the street about 1 kilometer, marched into the courtyard, into the vestibule of Nandanacharya's house, and Lord Chaitanya started chanting Nitai, Nitai, Nitai. Then Nityananda came out from hiding and said, "Gauranga, Gauranga," and then they embraced. It was a beautiful meeting, and everyone said, "Who is this Nitai?" Avadut. So that's where they met. So now Lord Chaitanya is going to the same house and hiding himself also in Nandanacharya's house. So what did he do when he got there? He went there and he sat on the Singhasan of Lord Vishnu. Nandana Dekhiya Grihe Parama Mangal Dandavatahaya Padila Bhumital. Seeing that the most auspicious personality has arrived in his house, Nandanacharya offered obeisances. by offering dandavats on the ground. Satvare dilena ani nutanaya vasanam tita vastra edilena Sri Shachinandan. Nandanacharya quickly brought new clothes for Sri Shachinandan, who then changed his wet clothes. Remember this, because it's all, we're reading it verse by verse, but it's all happening quite fast. Lord Chaitanya ran out of Srivas Thakur's house, ran across the street, jumped in the Ganga. Haridas and Nityananda grabbed him by the hair and feet, pulled him out, had some dialogue with him, and then he ran away and told him, keep it a secret, don't say where I've gone. Don't tell anyone. So now the Lord's run away. So then the camera switches to the devotees. Well, how do they respond to this? They're all crying. They can't speak anything. And they're very unhappy, and they're full of lamentation, shoka and dukkha and unhappiness. So they all go back to their homes. They leave Srivasangam. There's no reason to live anymore. They go back to their homes and collapse on the ground and start crying in great separation from Mahaprabhu. Then Advaitacharya, now the camera switched to Advaitacharya's face, and he's so hanging his head down. He's feeling very unhappy. Oh, it's all my fault. All the devotees are lamenting and are in separation. It's all my fault. I made such a mahaparad. And he's crying. Now this camera switched to Nandanacharya's house, and the Lord's coming in the front gate and running into the temple, because Nandanacharya is a temple of Lakshmi Narayan. And Lord Chaitanya runs into the temple and sits on the Singhasan. So Nandanacharya hears all the commotion. Oh, my Lord has come. Immediately offers dandavats. Then to greet the Lord, his clothes are all wet. And he immediately goes for service. Brings some new clothes, because the Lord's clothes are all wet, because he jumped in the Ganga with his clothes on. And beautiful scenery. I mean, unbelievable scenes if you were to watch all this in a movie. So tomorrow we'll hear more of the story of how Gauranga Mahaprabhu was received by Nandanacharya. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat Ki Jai. So Advaita, he replies to this statement of Mahaprabhu. Mahapatra Advaita Brukuti Karinache Kimate Kaiba Prema Nara Shushi Jache. Advaita Prabhu, the great recipient of the Lord's mercy, frowned and danced as he said, how will you feel ecstatic love when Nara has drained you? So this is, Nara is of course his own name, Nara, Narayan, Lord Vishnu. Muni nahi pana prema, napaya shivas, tilimali sane kara, premara vilas, avaduta tomar premer, haila das, ami se bahira ara, pandita shivas, ami sava nahilana, prema adhikari, avaduta si haila premara bhandari, jari more prema joga, nadehe gosai, shushiba sakala prema mora dosha nai. Advaita goes on. I do not get love of God, and neither does Srivas Thakur. Mahaprabhu, you enjoy your pastimes of ecstatic love with oil millers and gardeners. Avadut, Nitai, has become the servant of your love, while Srivas and I are left out. We are not qualified to attain your love. While this Avadut has come and become the storekeeper of your love. He's a prema bandhari. Avadut asi haila prema bandhari. Oh Gosai, this means Mahaprabhu, if you do not award me your ecstatic love, I will dry it all up. Then do not blame me. So this is from the grandfather. This is Advaita Acharya speaking some sarcasm, some humor. He's in a it sounds like he's criticizing, actually he's glorifying Mahaprabhu. He's saying, you associate with people of lower castes. Therefore, Srivas Thakur and I, who are brahmanas, we're not receiving your love. You're busy distributing your love to drunkards and miscreants. Avadut Nitai has become the only beneficiary of your love. Only you've given your love to him. If you do not bestow your love on me, then I'll take it all away. I'll drain it all out. Chaitanjara prema mata acharya gosai ki balaye ki karaye kichu smritinhai. Advaita Gosai was maddened with Lord Chaitanya's love. Prema mata, Chaitanya prema mata. He did not remember what he said or what he did. So he was actually speaking a little madly in his madness of love. So it didn't really make much sense, everything he was saying, because he was a full recipient of Mahaprabhu's complete love. Sarva mate Krishna bhakta mahima badhai bhakta gane jate veche tataiva vikai. Krishna increases the glories of his devotees in all respects. They are able to sell him wherever they want. Jai bhakti prabhave Krishne vechi bari pare se jai vakya bali beke ki vichitratari. For one who can sell Krishna by the influence of his bhakti prabhav. What is unusual about speaking in this way? So, Vaidacharya is in bliss of bhakti, and he has so much influence. Nana rupe bhakta bhadai jaina gora chandra kibujite paritana anugraha dhanda. Gaurachandra increases the glories of his devotees in various ways. Who can understand his mercy and punishment? Takura vishadena paya prema sukha hate tali diya nache avad advaita kotuka. As Mahaprabhu lamented due to not receiving the happiness of ecstatic love, Advaita joyfully danced while clapping his hands. This is some intimate exchanges. On their level, it's a little inconceivable what they're doing, but they're enjoying nonetheless. Advaitera vakya shuni prabhu vishwambhar arakichuna karila tara pratyutar. After listening to Advaita's words, Lord Vishwambhar did not make any reply. Se mata radadila guchaya dhwar pachedhaya nityananda haridasa tandra. Mahaprabhu suddenly opened the door and ran out of Shiva Sangam, and Nityananda and Haridas ran after him. So this is all the ecstatic, prem-filled lilas of the Lord. It's a chintya lila, very inconceivable. Prema shunya sharira tuya kiba kaj chintiya padila prabhu janavira haj. Thinking that there was no use in keeping a body devoid of love of God, the Lord jumped in the Ganga. Of course, he's teaching us we should become desperate. There's a certain desperation here exuding from these verses. Obviously, the Prem Avatar, Prem Sarup, Radha Govinda Prem Sarup, Vishwambhar, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rasaraj Mahabhav, is every pore of his body is emanating the deepest, most profound Madanakya Mahabhav, Prem of Radharani for Krishna. But he's teaching something that we're engaged in Sankirtan, we're not feeling any joy, no Prem Anubhavas. Maybe it's because of aparads, we've made Vaishnava aparads. Maybe it's because of bad association. You think of these 2 points that are being discussed in the last few minutes. Bad association, pashandis, atheists in the marketplace, atheists in our home, our family atheists, our mother and father atheists, our uncle pashandi, our pashandi uncles and aunts, pashandi brothers and sisters. So any type of bad association from any direction, in the temple, out of the temple, in the marketplace, on Sankirtan, at home, so-called relatives, relative program. So bad association or Vaishnava aparad can be 2 causes of worthlessness, making the body worthless. There's no life in the body. Raka pran, nare raka pran. Please save my life. So if we have no life, then we're dead. Very interesting, Lord Chaitanya is saying, Bina prema anubhav. If there's no anubhav, if there's no prema anubhav coming when I'm serving Krishna, Shravanam Kirtana Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam, When I'm engaged in hearing and chanting, remembering Krishna's name and pastimes and form, if I'm not experiencing any anubhavas, then what's the cause? Is it aparad? Is it offenses? Is it namaparad, vaishnavaparad, sevaparad, dhammaparad, jivaparad? Or is it bad association? Do I willfully take the bad association of my material desires? Do I willfully take the bad association of gossipers and fault finders among the devotees? Do I happily take the association of materialistic, atheistic people, friends and so-called old friends and relatives? Because these are causes. And then what does that mean? That means my bhakti is dead. There's no bhakti, there's no bhava, there's no anubhavas arising. So what's the point of living? There's no point in living. And if the Vaishnavas don't forgive me, aparad shama, they don't forgive me for my offenses, then my life is finished. So since no prema is coming, no love is happening, this body is useless. What's the point? So let me jump in the Ganges, commit suicide. The Lord is showing this. Thinking there is no use and keeping a body devoid of prema, the Lord decided to commit suicide. So if that was the standard of modern life, it would be a very small world population today. They say there's 6 billion people in the world, 1.5 billion in China, 1 billion in India, and the rest around here and there. So there will only be a handful left. Only be a half a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen, 20, 30 devotees left that actually have prema on this planet. And everybody else will be in the Ganges, floating dead. Or sinking dead, whatever. So when we read this, Mahaprabhu's intensity and his absorption, then we think, well, wait a minute, what am I doing here? I'm breathing just like the blacksmith's bellows, the leather bags with a little pointed instrument coming out. You step on the handles and the bags squeeze together and push out some hot air to keep the coals burning when you're using an anvil or making some horseshoes or something. The blacksmith, the ironsmith. So its body is a big airbag, 60 kilo airbag. Inhalation and exhalation, but no production, only air, hot air coming out. Not even hot air, sometimes bad air, stinky air. And not even making any fire, just polluting the air with our carbon dioxide. Taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. We're not even burning coals and making horseshoes. At least the blacksmith's bellows produces some useful product like horseshoes. Our breathing doesn't produce anything but carbon dioxide. So there's no use. Prema shunya sharir tuyat kiva kaj. Chintiya padila prabhu janavi maj. I want to merge in the janavi, means drown myself. Maja means merge. So Mahaprabhu's running at the speed of wind to jump in the janavi. Janava. The Ganga, and Haridas and Nityananda are running behind him. So it's Chaitanya Bhagavat, and this is chapter 16. We've been hearing about the story of Shukumbara Brahmachari and how much Lord Chaitanya appreciates his association. And Shukumbara apparently is the incarnation of, or he's the Gaur Lila form of Sudamadas, Sudama Brahman from Dwarka, Krishna Lila. And Lord Chaitanya came to meet Shukumbara in his house, and he forcibly took some old rice that Shukumbara had begged, because he was living by begging. He was a very impoverished person, but a great devotee. And to show how much appreciation and love Lord Chaitanya had for him, he personally took the rice from his hand. This takes 141. And Navnas Thakur is explaining. Mudra Sahita Naivedyara Jatavidi Vedarupe Apane Balena Gunanidhi. Lord Vishnubar, who is the reservoir of transcendental qualities, personally explained the Vedas, through the Vedas, the rules for offering food. Interesting that Shukumbara, of course, he wasn't really offering any food to Lord Chaitanya, but Lord Chaitanya was just taking some begged food that he offered. Somehow, now he goes on. Bine se vidikichu svikara nakare sakala pratigya chorna bhaktir durjare. Vishnubar does not accept anything unless it's offered according to those rules, but he breaks all those injunctions for the sake of his devotees. Shuklambara tandula tahara paraman hateva sakala vidira bhakti pran. Lord Vishnubar's accepting Shuklambara's rice is proof of this fact. Therefore, devotion is the life of all rules. Sakala Vidi Bhakti Pran. That's interesting. Sakala Vidi Bhakti Pran. That's why Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that the Mukhya Vidi is to always remember Krishna and never forget him. So always remembering Krishna, this only someone who's in love with someone can always remember their beloved. Because you can only remember something you're attached to, or someone you're attached to. If you're not attached to someone, you usually forget them. If you're very much attached to someone, your wife or husband, whatever, and you're thinking about them without even any effort, doesn't require any extraneous effort or extra effort to remember someone you're very attached to. Their memory automatically rises in your mind. And the feelings of that memory generates spontaneous feelings in the heart also. So this is the main Sakala Vidi Bhakti Pran. He says that devotion is the life of all rules. So if we're always remembering Krishna, never forgetting him, by always remembering Krishna, then all the other rules come in place. All the other so many rules and regulations are there, and they're all just all the different ways of expressing our remembrance of Krishna. Like the four regular principles, so we're remembering Krishna. Well, Krishna is Gopal, Govinda. He takes care of cows. He's a protector of cows. So how can I eat Krishna's cows? So I have to be a vegetarian. Oh, there's so many ways. So this is the primary thing. So this is devotion. Smaranam is a limb of devotion. Krishna Smaranam is bhakti. To remember Krishna is bhakti, but that type of smaranam doesn't really come. We can't really remember Krishna spontaneously till we come to the level of rati, asakti. Asakti means attachment. At the level of nishta, we remember Krishna sometimes, but not that often. At the level of asakti bhava. Bhava, we remember Krishna with feelings of love. That's bhava. We're attached to Krishna with feelings of love, but asakti means we're attached to Krishna, the person, and nishta means we're attached to the rules, or attached to the practices and sadhana that brings us to Krishna, that brings us to attachment to Krishna. Nishta goes to asakti. Nishta goes to ruchi goes to asakti. So ruchi means that we're attached to the rules and regulations of sadhana, and because we're getting some taste from those things. And then asakti means we're actually attached to the object of our sadhana. We're attached to Krishna. Aruchi becomes ruchi for Krishna, actual taste for Krishna, not taste for the limbs of devotion, but taste for devotion itself. Taste for chanting about Krishna or hearing about Krishna becomes taste for Krishna. Trishna for Krishna. Trishna means taste. So this is the interesting thing he's saying here. Sakala Vidi Bhakti Pran. He says that devotion is the life of all rules. And you can sustain, like labor of love, they say, the burden of carrying a baby in the womb of a mother. That's a heavy burden to carry. That's called the labor of love, burden of love. She doesn't mind carrying the weight and difficulty of pregnancy because of her love for the child, even before he's born. So this is it. Lord Chaitanya, he loved Shuklambara. So this is the ultimate rule, is that he loved this devotee, and whatever the devotee has, he accepted, even some old dried inferior quality rice that was begged, not even cooked. He immediately took it from Shuklambara and partook of it, ate it. Jatavidi Nisheda Sakali Bhakti Das Ihateja Haraduka Se Jayanash. All rules and regulations are servants of devotional service. One who is distressed because of this is vanquished. Vedavyasa has stated that devotion is the root of all rules, and Granga has directly demonstrated this in this pastime. Smarta vyasadatam vishnur sarva vidi nishedasur vismata vayo jatuchit etiyor evakin kara. Krishna is the original Lord Vishnu. He should always be remembered and never forgotten at any time. All rules and prohibitions mentioned in the Shastra should be the servants of these two principles. So this is a nice point. I guess this is one of the main points of this pastime about the offering, this offering of rice. Aside from hearing all the actual qualities and characteristics of Shuklamara Brahmachari, but the main teaching of this chapter seems to be this interaction, this pastime, Lila, that he had with Lord Chaitanya, taking his rice, and the points, the philosophical points that we have to learn from that. Mudrana ekari vipranadila apane tarapi tandula prabhu khaila jatane. The Brahmana Shuklambara did not offer the rice with mudras, nor did he even offer it. Yet nevertheless the Lord eagerly ate it. Vishaya mandhanda sava emarmana jane sutadana kulamade vaishnava nachine. Persons who are blinded by the pride of material enjoyment cannot understand this mystery. Intoxicated by their children, wealth and family prestige, they cannot recognize a Vaishnava. As no one recognized Shuklambara. They thought he was some beggar. He was such a great Vaishnava that the Lord came to his house and forcibly took some rice from his hand and ate the offering, which wasn't even offered and wasn't even offerable. By Archan Marg standards, the rice was not, it's supposed to be first class rice you offer to the deities. Wasn't even offerable. Wasn't even cooked. Usually rice has to be cooked before it's offered to the Lord. So although other so-called devotees in Navadvip, they were making offerings to their Shalagram or offerings to their Murtis very properly, here we see the Lord is going to the house of his devotee directly, Sakshat Darshan, and taking directly the offering. Deki Morka Daridra Jai Vaishnavere Hase Tara Puja Vitta Kavu Krishnere Navhase. Krishna never accepts the offerings and worship of one who ridicules a Vaishnava, considering him poor or foolish. So Vrindavan Das Thakur is saying that there are so many people, Vaishnavas, living there nearby and around Shuklambara, but they were ridiculing him for being a poor beggar. And they're making offerings, but here Vrindavan Das Thakur is saying they don't even, Krishna's not even accepting their offerings. So it's devotion, of course, that the Lord is interested in.